Shalom. Hello again. On this program and the next two, we're going to have something very special, a genuine musical play, our first one, on a very biblical subject. It's kind of a parable in music. I think you'll be fully entertained and informed. Now, the whole show would take an hour and a half to do straight through, so we're going to use 3 programs for it. So don't miss the next 2. Watch it tonight and watch the next 2, because it's a continuing story. Tell a friend. We'll have recaps at the top of each of the next 2 programs so your friends can catch up on the action. You'll see me in the play. I walk through it as a narrator, and you'll see actors and singers in first century Israel sets that are very authentic. We'll be offering an album on today's program, which has the 14 songs that are in the show. You can get it in the album or cassette, and it would be the complete music of the show if you get the album. I'll tell you later how to get it. This time we're also going to have a videotape. All 3 programs complete without breaks, so that if you get the videotape, you'll have the whole thing. And I'll tell you more about that later. Beloved Thief is really the Christian love story. We've taught it in the past. People love it. And we've simply dramatized it and set it to music. It's beautiful, elegant, and spiritual. So sit back and enjoy Beloved Thief. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Of all the wonderful promises in the Bible, that may be the most wonderful of all. I'm going to tell you a Bible story now. More than a story. I'm going to tell you a Bible secret. I have the Bible here, the part written before Messiah came and the part written after. What we've come to call the Old Testament and the New Testament. Our subject is love and marriage, how 2 people become one. And after these romantic proceedings, if you conclude that the 2 Bibles are really one, well, our time won't have been wasted. And the time of our love story is the last time the Israelites were in their promised land, some 1,900 years ago. A rushing mighty wind has just blown through their land. A penniless preacher from a small town of Galilee has come and gone very recently. And if you would have accused that young rabbi of disrupting some lives, well, he would have thanked you. Our story is all about his remarkable entrance and exit. After all, our book, the Old Testament and the New, is all about him. Now, consider these folks in their marketplace. Messiahs have come through their land before, and they'll come again. Not everybody is affected, truth to tell. These people are skeptical. They're smart. They are the chosen, the people of God.
I see her, Joshua.
What's her name?
I don't know, but she comes to the well every day about this time.
I think that boy is watching you.
He is?
I'm sure he is.
No, Rachel, come back. Mother's waiting for us.
The chosen people were like everybody else. They fell in love all the time, but they had very strict rules. They didn't have any dating or courtship as we know it. A young man and woman didn't go anywhere alone together. If they did, you can believe they were married. It wasn't that the Israelites didn't believe in love, but they really trusted love at first sight. The first date, as we would call it, was a proposal of marriage. It didn't bother them to marry strangers. There's a wonderful Jewish song that says, "The first time I saw you was on our wedding day." Think about the story of Rebecca, Rivka Imenu, Rebecca, our mother. Why, she didn't see her bridegroom before the wedding. She just saw the gifts that the servant brought. The believers in the Messiah today are in the same position. They've not seen the bridegroom, but they see the gifts brought by the Holy Spirit, and they're wooed and won. Now, there's a great love song coming up. But first I have to explain what young David is thinking. He saw a pretty girl by the well. Now he'll have to go to her house with a real contract of marriage and some money. They had a bride price, which is to say if a family raised sons, they thought it had natural advantages, workers on the place and so forth. But if a family raised a daughter, why, they had nothing but liabilities. Some of you men may sympathize with that. But when those girls got old enough that the boys came around and wanted to marry them, why, they could charge a price for each bride, and that way they could consolidate their losses. But first things first, David had to actually propose to that girl before anybody signed any contracts or got any money. He had to visit her house and pour her a cup of wine. That's all there was to it. Nobody said anything like, "Will you marry me?" He would just visit with her family for a while and put that cup in front of her. And she could drink it or not drink it. Take all the time you need, ladies. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But either pick up that cup and drink it right then, or she could leave it if she wasn't ready. But of course, she had to think about when the next contract was coming. But now back to our play. Look at young David. He's in love. No doubt about that. His life has changed forever, and all because he saw her.
David, you know the story of Rebecca, the mother of all the chosen people. She never even saw her bridegroom until the marriage.
No, but she saw the gifts he sent.
Now, David, first you must go to what is her name?
Her name is Devorah.
Devorah.
You must take the contract of marriage to Devorah's house.
And be sure and take some money. Now, you must pay a price for your bride.
Yes, Hannah, he must be sure to bring a suitable price for her. Now, David, you know our custom. After you talk with the family, you pour the wine for her.
And while you are pouring the wine, you're telling her you are willing to sacrifice to have her as your bride.
After the family drinks, then you offer Devorah the cup of wine. If she drinks it, the answer is yes. If she leaves it sitting there, she isn't ready.
Oh, and remember, she can take all the time she wants. 2-3 minutes, maybe.
She may look at the contract.
Or count the money.
Before she picks up the cup.
Or she may not pick up the cup.
Remember to talk to her father and to her mother.
Oh, and David, you tell them all about your family and show them the contract before you pour the wine.
Hannah, no one can be expected to remember all your instructions.
David will remember.
I will remember.
When the young man got up courage and brought the contract, things were pretty tense. Would the family like him? Would the family even know him? Would the chosen bride-to-be love him? Would she drink his cup? Let's look in on a real moment of excitement.
I'm glad you came to see us. I know your father. Isn't he the carpenter from the village? Don't you have several brothers and sisters?
Yes, but I'm the oldest. The others aren't married yet.
Really? Why have you come to visit us?
Is your daughter home?
Oh, I see. But I have several daughters. Was there a particular one you wanted to see?
I saw her by the well. She smiles like Rebecca.
Like Rebecca, hey? Well, Mother, go and get our Rebecca. You know, the daughter who's getting to be so expensive. We call our Rebecca Devorah.
Yes, I know.
And so it goes. Boy meets girl and boy proposes to girl. But their first kiss will be after the wedding. Let's see what happens now. Keep your eyes on that cup.
I go to prepare a place for you.
Oh, Mama, he said I go to prepare a place for you.
Yes, Deborah, we heard. And now you will follow Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and all our mothers in our customs. You must wear your veil whenever you leave the house so that everyone will know you've been spoken for. And since you don't know when David will finish the chamber, you must wait for him every night. And remember, you must keep your oil lamp trimmed by your bed, for a young bridegroom might surprise you at midnight. And remember, he comes like a thief in the night.
I will remember.
And where has David gone? Back to his father's house to build her a little mansion, a bridal chamber for their honeymoon. There's a beautiful analogy in the Bible about the Messiah as the bridegroom and the believers as his bride. The Lord did everything we're doing in our play tonight. He came from his Father's house to our house. He brought us a contract, the New Covenant, Brit Chadashah in Hebrew, the New Testament. And he poured the cup at Passover. He said, "Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood shed for the many for remission of sin." And he paid the price at Calvary, the highest possible price, the very life of an innocent man. And before he left, he said, "In my Father's house are many mansions." Now the believers are in the middle of the biggest courtship of all time. They drink the cup and they wait for him. The contract said the bride had to be waiting every night. When she went out in front of other men, she would wear a veil, but at night she'd be home trimming that oil lamp, because he might come at midnight. There were no street lamps, of course, and Israel's pretty rough terrain, so she had to have a lamp ready to travel in the dark. It showed that she was really waiting. These brides were stolen out of their beds. Indeed, the bridegroom came like a thief in the night. From the moment she drank that cup, the bride was forever different. She was called consecrated, set apart, bought with a price. She is not her own. During the day, she could work on completing her trousseau, but at night she'd be home with that lamp, and her sisters and her bridesmaids waiting with her, all of them thinking the same thing. When would he come?
Oh, Deborah, you look so beautiful. And you must wear it every time you leave the house. Could this be the night he will come? May I try it on? Did you hear something? Is the lamp ready? Is it? Do you have plenty of oil? The lamp must be filled with oil when he comes.
From the moment she drank that cup, the adventure is just beginning. Now, let's go back to our play. Now, the bride was taken by surprise, to be sure. When the chamber would finally be ready, the groom and his brothers and his groomsmen would sneak over to her street, get close to the house, make sure it was dark and everyone was asleep. Now, there were certain rules. The groom couldn't just rush in and grab her out of her bed. The God of Israel is kinder than that. When they would come close enough to her house to be heard, someone in the wedding party would have to shout. When she heard that shout, she knew he'd be there in a moment. She had time only to light her lamp and get her veil on, and her sisters and bridesmaids would light their lamps and join her, and they'd meet the men and go through the village, and the people of the village could know there was a wedding because they heard the young people laughing at midnight and going by with the oil lamps. Now, back in our play over at the bridegroom's father's house, things were progressing. If this young man had never built anything else in his life, he was going to get this chamber ready. And it was a project. It had to be well built. The honeymoon was 7 days long, just as the believers will be 7 years in heaven with their bridegroom. Now, the bride had no idea when he would come. That only depended on how good a builder he was. Mary must have been glad to have a contract from Joseph. After all, a carpenter should know how to put up a bridal chamber. Now, his father was the judge on when the thing was really done. You can see the logic there. If it were up to the young man, he'd throw up some kind of simple shelter and just go and get the girl. But his father would inspect it from time to time to see when it was really ready. After all, it had to be beautiful. You don't honeymoon just any place. And therefore, the father of the bridegroom chose the wedding day. Well, it was a long job and good work. It would teach David patience and diligence. It would give him a useful skill. And most of all, it would keep his mind where it belonged, on the lucky girl.
Have you been working all day?
All night and all day.
I've seen your bride-to-be, such a beautiful girl. I had a feeling you'd be finishing this job quickly.
It is almost finished, but I still have work to do.
When will the wedding be?
Only my father knows.
Beloved thief. And at this point, Devorah, the bride-to-be in our play, wears a veil when she goes out. She's drank the cup and she's promised, and she wears a veil so that other men won't be able to see her face during her engagement period. You know, the veil is a symbol of the faith. The world can't very well describe the believers because they have veils of faith. They have a contract behind the scenes with a bridegroom, and they're waiting for him to come, and so they act different than the world. The world doesn't recognize them because of their veils. Once you're promised, you go around with a veil. Well, this was followed by a gathering of Jewish believers in the Messiah. The man born blind has just given his testimony. Our bride-to-be has overheard his remarkable story.
Devorah, we should not have come.
At the back of the crowd, we can see the bride from the wedding at Cana. And so Devorah, our bride-to-be, is left standing in the doorway after the Hebrew Christian service. Let's see what happens next. Back to our play.
What are you saying? Gold, silver, precious stones? What do these things mean? I didn't mean to overhear, but I stayed to talk with you.
Oh, I'm happy to talk with you.
I wanted to ask you about seeing the blind man today and then hearing your story. I don't understand.
I understand why you are confused. I became a believer in the Messiah on my wedding day, after I met him and saw the miracle.
I understand that your leader, Ishmael, speaks of a new covenant.
Yes, I have a covenant relationship with the Messiah. Just as you are David's bride, the believers are the bride of the Lord. We drank the cup with him, and he has paid the price for us.
How can these things be? He must love you very much to pay such a high price.
Devorah, this price was also paid for you, for all Israel, for the whole world. He is our bridegroom, and he is preparing a place for all of us, that where he is, we may go also. This new covenant is written in our hearts.
I do not understand this new covenant.
Devorah.
How do I find the Messiah?
Are you coming, Devorah?
I cannot come with you. How can I follow you? I don't even know who you are. Some say you were a thief who died on a cross. But the blind man says that you gave him his sight. Some say you were just a carpenter from Galilee. But Esther says that you came to her wedding and changed her life. How could you love me enough to die when I didn't even know who you were? Even as I question you, I feel the presence of your love. A love that will not let me go. Oh, forgive my unbelief. I too was blind, but now I see.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pori hagafen.
He quotes the very words of Messiah at the Passover table, the ancient Hebrew blessing. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. The blind man can really see now. He sees that the Lord is the true vine, the disciples are the branches, and these great works of salvation are the fruits. And that's about as far as our story goes. What about the ending, you may ask? Did the boy get the girl? No doubt about it. All the young men came back for their brides. The bride would be asleep with her lamp and her veil by her bed, and she would hear that shout. And so it says in our book, the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout. It was midnight and a cry was made. Remember the 10 virgins that were waiting for the bridegroom. 5 had oil in their lamps and 5 did not. The oil meant they were really ready to go in the dark. But the 5 virgins with no oil didn't think he was really coming that night. Do you think he might come tonight? That wedding contract said the bride had to be waiting every night. Are you filled with oil? The oil in the Bible is the Holy Spirit. If we're filled, we're ready to go when he comes. Well, we can't finish our wedding story on the stage because the big wedding we're in is not over yet. We wait, like Devorah, for our bridegroom. We drink the cup and we wait. Remember that it all started with that cup. We all drink it. It's the Passover cup, the communion, the cup of the Lord's Supper. You know, you ladies turned down some cups in your lifetime. And when those ancient prospective brides didn't lift the cup, why, that young man didn't come back. But when they drank that one cup, that one always came back. When they serve you the Lord's cup, drink it. And when he comes, he'll stop at your house. If you're really waiting, he'll come for you. If you're in love with that beloved thief, he'll come and steal you away. We'll end our story for now, but let's keep listening for that shout.